It's been a huge week for Microsoft Flight Simulator news. We've had updates via Asobo's developer livestream, as well as updates from third-party developers such as PMDG, Bluebird's Parallel42, and just today at the time of recording, iniBuilds regarding their upcoming Airbus A350. So let's not waste any time, let's dive into it. Starting out with Asobo, they held their monthly developer live stream yesterday at the time of recording, February 5th, and the two big things on my mind were when can we expect Sim Update 1 and when can we expect to have a native implementation of DLSS 4. Those of you that saw my DLSS 4 video last week will know that we had to resort to manually swapping out into DLSS 4 and the results weren't particularly great. Sim Update 1 has now had its code locked in that there are no new features being added. It's really a case of getting things tested and out the door. On the subject of testing, there was an interesting and refreshingly open conversation about the state of Microsoft Flight Sim 24 and the condition in which it launched. Jorg was saying how if they were to release a sim like this again, they would spend a lot longer in beta and would likely remain in a beta state for up to a year. It seems that lessons have been learnt from the 2024 release and future products can now hopefully be better for it, and indeed updates that we're going to get for 2024. A lot of time in the stream was spent talking about how various bug fixes have been sorted and whether the fix will be in Sim Update 1 or whether it will be pushed to Sim Update 2. Too many to mention here, but one bug fix they spoke about that caught my ear was the VRAM issues. Now, I think I fell victim to this the other day during my Dubai to London flight in the Airbus A350. Those of you that saw it will remember how I touched down into Heathrow at around about 7 FPS and my GPU memory had been well and truly gobbled up. So improvements are said to be coming here in the form of asset optimization. So it's not like there's a bug somewhere that's just gobbling up VRAM. It's more a case of game assets, airports in particular, being optimized in order to preserve our precious VRAM. And they've got data, telemetry data, which tells them which airports are being used the most, and they're prioritizing the work in that order. York said that by the end of February, this work should be done. Now, if I'm understanding this correctly, due to the nature of how the new 2024 sim streams in the world, we won't necessarily have to wait for a sim update to see the results of this. The new optimized assets can be added to their cloud and then we stream them in the next time we fly to an updated airport. So fingers crossed for this one. Time and time again though during the live stream there was an emphasis on them really wanting to have the time to test stuff. It's a really tough balance and you need to have a strong head on your shoulders to stay true to this stuff. I can tell you as someone that's worked in software development, there's always this tension between the developers and the project stakeholders. You know, the stakeholders, the client, they want their product released to a deadline and, you know, or before, while also there's this kind of relentless push from them to be trying to get more features in to be included for the delivery date. My point is you can't have it both ways. Now, some of you might be disappointed to hear that certain things are being pushed to Sim Update 2, and I kind of was too, because the implementation of DLSS 4, the official implementation that is, will be coming in Sim Update 2, but it's not really that far away. They said they're shooting for the end of April for Sim Update 2, so try not to be too disheartened if there's something you're desperately waiting for that's been pushed to Sim Update 2. As for Sim Update 1, as far as I can tell, they didn't explicitly give us a release date for Sim Update 1. They kind of started talking about it. Then they went on to say how the marketplace is a core part of the Sim Update and that they're shooting for February 18th. Now, I'm presuming they meant Sim Update 1 and the marketplace here. Jorg also said, am I 100% convinced it's going to be done then? Nope. So I guess time will tell on this one, so keep your ear to the ground. PMDG have shared some updates. For those that don't know, due to issues with Microsoft Flight Sim 24's SDK, they've essentially had their hands tied when it comes to bringing their aircraft into Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, but it looks like we might be starting to turn a corner. Robert Randazzo posted on the PMDG forums, we have had the SU1 public beta on our hands for a bit over a day now and are cautiously optimistic that come Monday we will find ourselves fully unstuck when it comes to working within Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. He went on to add, late this evening we were able to build the 777 using the Microsoft Flight Simulator SDK, and it ran in mostly stable fashion with debugging capability attached. We operated the airplane through an entire flight sequence and began cataloguing the many issues that show up in 2024 that don't appear in 2020 and thus need to be addressed. This process will start in earnest on Monday. Now, this is really encouraging, as frankly, the only thing that is keeping me in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 right now is PMDG. I often kind of get drive-by comments on my live streams asking me why I'm running 2020, and the answer is kind of simple. PMDG. I need my PMDG Boeing fix, and I can't wait for them to get their planes into 2024. It's unclear to me how this is going to work. Are PMDG going to start by giving us a direct port of the 2020 planes that are compatible with Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, or are they going to spend more time and fully upgrade their planes to become like native Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 planes? I kind of hope we get a basic, in air quotes, port of their 2020 planes into 2024 first, just so we've got something to be getting on with, assuming this isn't a crazy amount of work. I really feel this will keep the community happy by giving them something to use in 2024 from PMDG. Then PMDG can take their time and bring us to full-on 2024 versions of their planes with the pressure off, so to speak. I know there's nothing easier than another engineer's problem, but that's my 2 cents for what it's worth. We've also had news from Bluebird Simulations this week regarding their upcoming Boeing 757. They posted a 30-minute video on their YouTube channel going through various systems of the plane. And while we haven't had a release date yet, I think it's fair to say this plane is shaping up really, really well. And it's one that I can't wait to get flying in the sim, particularly as more and more of these planes get retired from real-world service. It's nice to have them preserved in the sim. They're also working on a 767 too, but right now it's all eyes on the 757. Go check out the video if you haven't already. I'll leave a link in the description, but man, this plane is looking good. I am full on rooting for Bluebird over here. Next up, Parallel42 announced ChasePlane for Microsoft Flight Simulator, an app that improves the camera system within the sim. ChasePlane goes back a long way. It was originally developed in 2016 for FSX, and it's fair to say the camera system in Microsoft Flight Simulator is a bit lacking. And I think I can say this with some authority given how I use it extensively to make my YouTube videos, and I rely heavily on the built-in camera system to do so. It's probably my least favorite part of making videos for you guys. The panning shots I get for when we're in cruise, they look great, but man, they're a faff to make. For those of you who aren't content creators, I still think you're going to love this, particularly the cinematic mode. It could add a really cool epicness to your cruises. So ChasePlane will be available for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 initially, with a separate version for 2024 being developed also. The reason for this, according to Parallel42, is that the two sims are fundamentally very different under the hood, so one universal version isn't possible. They did add on their website that once the 2024 version of ChasePlane is ready, it will be made available for free to current owners of the 2020 version for a limited time after release. So that's good news. Keep your eyes on this one, folks. It looks like it could be a very solid addition to our armory of add-ons. And last but not least, iniBuilds and their A350. Today, at the time of recording, February 6th, they've hosted a live stream showing off their upcoming Airbus A350. And they were very clear from the outset that what's shown in their stream is what you can expect as a 2024 user running on PC. It's awesome that this plane's come into the sim. It's really like a culmination of everything that Airbus has learned over the years being brought together into this next-gen airliner. It's a very, very cool plane. In the stream, they said that one purchase will get you a 2020 and a 2024 version of this plane, which was music to my ears. I was initially concerned that the two versions might be sold separately, but according to what I heard in the stream, it would seem not. And you also get the 900 and the 1000 variant with that one purchase also. So one purchase, two variants, both sims, great stuff. And there should be a free 900 ULR, so that's ultra long range expansion that will come post-release also. One thing they spoke about was texture resolution. Some of you might be familiar with the whole 4K, 8K texture things that we typically have to deal with in the sim. Now in the A350, they said they're using 1K textures everywhere in the flight deck. And this achieves detail way beyond 8K, and they do this using detail maps, meaning you can get super high detailed assets in the plane while preserving performance. The proof, I guess, will be in the pudding, but this is sounding certainly very, very promising indeed. One thing that was also pointed out was how if you buy on the iniBuilds store versus the marketplace, if the iniBuilds version, you'll be able to kind of switch things off to preserve performance, similar, I guess, to their airports where you can say turn off the interiors. One example they gave on the stream was the avionics bay. I mean, you can literally go down the hatch in the cockpit into the avionics bay and look around. It's really cool stuff if you're into that. But if you're not into that and you'd rather have maybe a bit more FPS and performance overhead, you can go into the ini manager and turn that off. But in the marketplace version, you wouldn't be able to have this fine-grained level of control. So keep that in mind. Also in chat, iniBuilds said that the plane will come to the ini store first also. In terms of pricing, for now, iniBuilds said in their live chat that it will be less than €80, excluding VAT. That's all they have for now. More info will come closer to launch. As for a release date, during the stream, it was said that the plan is to release the plane in February, so this month. As I record this, the stream is still ongoing. It's looking like a fairly long one, so should a more specific release date be announced towards the end, perhaps, I'll leave it in a pinned comment for you below. So, lots going on. And while Microsoft Flight Sim 2024 wasn't the launch I think a lot of us had hoped for, I think it's fair to say things are starting to head in the right direction. There's a lot of cool stuff coming from third parties as well. Yes, 2024 is still in its infancy, and sometimes it really, really shows. But I think the future is starting to look a little bit brighter, and it's great to see things coming together. Let me know, of course, what you think in the comments. But for now, I'll leave it here. Thank you very much indeed for watching. Look after yourselves, be good to each other, and as always, happy flying.